Hello everybody, and a little update on the H-Bomber guy situation. It turns out that he has released an apology, and there was a response to this apology by Klaus, the trans person who I can say is a trans man after all the confusion in the last video. There's a lot of things that I need to go through, especially his Discord as well. There's things about that. All sorts of stuff that's going on. So let's get into it, shall we? Now, of course, we all know where the apology is most likely going to take place, and where else than Tumblr, the home of social justice, of course. And so this is on H-Bomb's Tumblr blog, very inventive title, and he simply has entitled this piece as an apology. And it reads, "Hi, in early March, a former friend, Klaus, who worked with me on videos for my channel, put a call-out post on Tumblr about me. The post contains logs of a conversation we had after he came out to me that another friend had made him feel unsafe in Skype chats in late 2011. I handled this very poorly. I encourage you to read the blogs Klaus has posted. I believe that there is a proper way to react when the person approaches you with a story like the one he came to me with. It is always important to be kind to people who trust you when they tell you they feel hurt. When this has happened, I failed to do this." Because I knew the person he was talking about, and I had been there at the time of many of the conversations Klaus has been referring to, I immediately went about investigating whether or not the claim was true. My first real response to Klaus opening up to me about his fears was to tell him that I doubted him, and to question if he was sure he was remembering things properly. This behaviour was wrong. I had the opportunity to respond with care and understanding, and instead my first instinct was to check the facts. This is not a kind instinct, and it is not a good way of treating anyone, especially a friend. I write from a position of privilege. I try my best to be a good person and see things from a worthwhile perspective, but when it comes down to it, I am a straight white man, living in a very secluded part of the UK, where most people aren't affected by the worst of the problems I often talk about. I tried to criticise the exact perspective this can engender, but when this happened, I didn't even notice I was acting out myself. I failed to be compassionate to a friend who was confiding in me. Even if everything Klaus had said to me had been untrue, it was still nothing short of cruel to respond the way I did. I want to be a good ally and stand up for people who have been hurt, and I still have a lot to learn from others. I wish I hadn't needed to learn this lesson at all in the first place. I know I have disappointed some people. I recently reached out to my audience, asking people who have problems with aspects of my work to get in touch and tell me what they feel I should do differently, and I want to reaffirm that I read all of the messages that are sent to me and take them seriously. I lost a very good friend, someone who was and still is important to me, because I failed to live up to the principles I believe in, and I do not want to hurt anyone like that again. A couple of other members of the community have shared the call-out post and their disappointment with what I wrote. I am heartened by this behaviour. It's good that people in our corner of the internet are willing to criticise people's actions, especially when they otherwise agree with them, or like their work, or share their goals, and especially when that person is me. This is exactly the sort of community I want to be a part of, and I hope I can do right by it in my work. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and how I dealt with Klaus's feelings is a big one. I was a bad friend to someone who deserved to be treated better, and I can never undo that, but I can and will do better in the future. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I can never apologise enough to Klaus. I don't expect him to forgive me. His post relates that he shared this story because he wants to do better in the future and to grow as a person. And at the very least, I hope it's clear that I want to live up to his and your expectations for me. God, what a cook, people. Seriously, this is just the Devin Farassi defence when Farassi literally admitted what he did wrong, even if he may or may not have done anything wrong, because there's no evidence to even point that he did anything wrong. This is essentially what it is. This is what these male allies, these male feminists do. When they're caught doing something that is unsavoury, they do this. They admit some kind of wrongdoing, but not really admitting it, and then they just play the victim and say, look, I'm sorry, I'm very, very sorry, please don't hurt me, and then this shit, and hope to be accepted. In many ways, they are accepted, in many ways, they aren't. I just find it funny that what he should have done was listen and believe rather than check the facts, like a good person would do, like a normal person would do. But what I do agree with him is that saying, oh, maybe you misremembered something, it's not the way you respond to somebody who's just said something like that. I mean, that is just weird. You don't say shit like that. And by the way, speaking of criticism, well, we'll find that he isn't actually going about the way that he's saying that he is, but that's spoilers. So what can I really glean from this? Well, it's just wishy-washy. Please forgive me. I'm privileged. I know not what I do. All that other bullshit you expect from male feminists when they're caught with their pants down. Let's go to the response to this apology, shall we? And this is from Klaus, or AFAB Transman. And this is what he has to say. I've been getting asks about H-Bomb's apology post, so I guess I gotta post this. In my opinion, H-Bomb's apology isn't an apology at all. It's a mealy-mouthed copy of my previous answer to an anon-ask that he's using to try to take the heat off of himself, instead of actually 1, apologising, and 2, fixing the problem. I would have given him a grade of D+ for excessively dickish for his apology, because if I gave him an F, he'd immediately run his mouth off about F for feminist, or some stupid bullshit like the little shit he is. First off, the apology is just a rewording of my answer to an anon question from yesterday or the day before. You can read it here, and I'll link it to the sources in the description, people. I am not going to go all conspiracy theory about this, but it's highly suspicious I got an influx of anon-asks like this right before H-Bomb actually addressed the issue in his own post, instead of hiding it and banning all discussions of anything related to it. Oh, you didn't know about that shit? Several people have contacted me through various means about his behaviours, including the fact that he shut down all discussion of the post or call-outs against him in general on his Discord that came out right after my posting. Oh, and his current mod team rushes to defend him, despite, the whole listen and believe thing. And I will be going through these Imgur files and his Discord after this bit. So, let's continue. So tell me, where in his apology does he talk about this? Where does he admit that the people he gave mod powers to in his Discord channels immediately rushed to his defence like this by posting victim blaming bullshit? Or that he refused to talk about this openly and publicly until they got to this point? Where is him admitting these things, openly describing what he did and apologising for them? Secondly, where in an apology does he take responsibility for his actions, his words, and the fact that he did not address any of this until he couldn't ignore it? Where is it? I'm still waiting for that. Part of the issue wasn't that he just didn't believe me, it was the bullshit of immediately pulling a "you crazy bitch" lol thing, or the fact that he continued to demand I and everyone else be quiet about this issue despite there being documentation and screen caps of his behaviours. Now, I don't have evidence for this, but some of the previous users of this Discord have contacted me to say that he has discussed this in the Discord voice channels, only to continue the "you're a crazy bitch" lol narrative without actually having a discussion. So eat shit, bitch. You hadn't even done step 1 of doing an apology anyway. Thirdly, nowhere in this post does he link to my actual posts or screen caps about it. What good is replying to a call out if you're not going to screen cap it, link it, or refer to it? If you are apologising for something and taking responsibility for it, do it right. Show someone, hey, here's the fucked up shit I said, now here's my apology. Instead, he's hiding it behind "please privately message me for the link so I know who's asking," and the terrible excuse of not wanting to overwhelm my blog. Fucking excuse me, but what the fuck do you think a call out post is meant for? It's meant to be shared. It's meant to get popular. It's meant to have more eyes put on it. It's not meant to be hidden in shitty little DMs so you can control whether these people see your mistakes or not. But hey, I guess that's H-Bomb for you. Runs his social media just like his Discord. This is double rich, coming from a fuck who made 3k off a video he posted about PewDiePie refusing to say that he asked those guys to write on the side. I hope the irony isn't lost on anyone else, because it sure as fuck is lost on him. Lastly, and most importantly, where the fuck does he denounce Paper Lion's actions? Seriously! Whole point was that he was defending a person he has admitted to being a creep. Not only that, but this creep has mod powers in his Discord channels, his live streams, stars in several of his videos as voice talent, spends a large amount of time in voice chats with H-Bomb. So where the fuck is your statement about him and what you're doing to fix the situation? Does he still have mod powers? Are you going to let a guy who threatens to rape AFAB's women have power over your fan base? A group who's watching you specifically because they want feminist content? Where's his public apology? An explanation of his behaviour? And the actions you are both taking to ensure you do not allow abusers into your circle of your friends or fan bases, giving them more chances to abuse people? You piece of shit. Get the fuck out of here with that. If you do not know how to do this shit as a feminist before this, then you sure as hell aren't a feminist. And you sure as hell aren't getting any of my forgiveness for your bizarre non-apology. No, she Scotsman. Go prostrate yourself to your fellow social justice white boys who just want to jerk off to lesbian incest anime and turbo stripper movies without those pesky vagina havers calling you problematic. That sounds like she's talking about the alt-right, or just shitlaws and Kakistanis. Oh my god. The irony, you're talking about irony, but you don't even have your vagina anymore, so... If this guy has no problem with posting my real name alongside his little rant, but won't even call out Paperline Ethan, then get fucked. Don't you dare use my "I hope you become a better person" comment as I get out of jail free card, because it fucking isn't anymore. That comment was made when I still assumed you were a decent person who genuinely had just a blind spot, but was doing what he had to correct it. You're not. You're a fucking creep and rape apologist, making money off of doing the exact same things you're accusing everyone else of doing in your videos. You're exploiting the community in the same way every other straight white boy has done before you, and you'll continue to do so because you've built up a cult of personality instead of doing the right thing. Get the fuck out. I just like two bigots going against each other. It's quite funny. We've got one person who hates straight white men, who was or was not threatened with rape or saw a rape joke and decided that was a threat and got offended. And we've got H-Bomber Guy, who doesn't like straight white men either, hates himself and doesn't particularly like people who think differently from him. And honestly, it's a victim fight and it's great to watch, people. Now, it was a pretty good rebuttal of the apology, but in regards to the copy-paste, I don't know. I don't think it was. It didn't read like what I read last time, but I'll post everything in the description and you guys can read it for yourselves and come up with your own conclusions. Who knows, maybe you'll convince me that it is, because I'm not really sure. I'm kind of on the fence, but it didn't sound like a copy-paste. And I'm not going to read that thing again, okay? You can go look at the other video. But the guy mentioned the Discord and the fact that criticism is not being taken. In fact, it is being snuffed out. And that is true, in fact. And we have Discord screenshots. And these are the screenshots that AFAB has shared with us. And it shows the mods essentially trying to shut up all the stuff that people are talking about, and in particular a Rule 5, which we will get to. And then again, here you can see them shutting it off. Shut it off, man! As Lynn says, he's cutting the conversation off. The guy you know too much. Take it to PMs, of course. And for some reason, these idiots are going to delete their messages. Like good people, like good sheep, they do it. Wow, they've really cultivated quite a community here where they just do their every bidding. Now let's go to that Discord, people. Now sadly, I couldn't actually get into the Discord because for some reason invites aren't allowed anymore. So I managed to get somebody that I know to get me a screenshot. I'm not going to say who. Their identity will be safe and sound in my head. Nobody will know. And here are the rules, the 12 commandments. I mean, just forum rules, server rules. And number 1 is be careful and respectful with personally identifying information. For example, do not repost or share people's blogs or social media profiles elsewhere, or repost or share messages from the Discord elsewhere without first anonymizing them unless you have express permission to do so. Anonymity. It's only okay when SJWs do it, but otherwise, a good rule. 2. No impersonation of others in any way. That's pretty cool. 3. Fair reminders on this Discord. If you are an adult, you may take the 18+ role and be permitted to discuss NSFW content in this designated channel. If you do not wish to see kink discourse, do not ask for the tag. Whatever. 4. This Discord is intended to be a safe space. Safe space. Be mindful of sensitive subject matter and avoid using triggering terms, imagery and descriptions, which is anything H-Bomb and this lot decide is triggering terms, imagery and descriptions. The mental illness members are listed as roles on their profile along with preferred pronouns. You may also request this to be added to your profile. Yeah, and it's totally all legit. 5, and this is the big one. If you have an issue with H-Bomber Guy or a member of the moderator staff, take it up with them directly via PM, not in the general chat. Any issue you have with a member of this Discord may be brought up with the mod staff, but will require a citation of the events in question. Whatever you do, don't criticise the main man. Don't criticise the mods. That is verboten, and we'll get into that. You are expected to be respectful and nice in this Discord, says rule number 6. Treat each other's needs with care and be courteous in conversation. Sounds boring. 7. Do not dogpile onto someone in the chat, meaning ganging up on them and making them argue with many people at once. Yes, we know what that means. This is an inherently rude intimidation tactic and will not be permitted. Yeah, except of all the dogpiling you do when I troll one of your own or I get into a debate with someone, you all spring to attention and comment on me, but hey, that's okay. Besides, these things actually happen in a debate, in a server where there's not like any PM shit or where you can do it one-on-one. That's going to happen. Like, that's not dogpiling, that's people joining in on the debate. And I don't necessarily think that's dogpiling, but whatever. 8. Do not threaten any member of this Discord with any form of harm, mental or physical. There's no need for this, and it will not be tolerated. yeah. And if your old friend is to be believed, you don't really abide by that rule. 9. Do not antagonise members of the Discord by shaming elements of personality or mental illnesses. Attack the argument, not the person. What is it with you and skulls? Do not promote racism, ableism, sexism, anti-LGBTQ LMNP, sexual assault, paedophilia, including artwork. Well, except when it's Sarah Nyberg, then it's okay. Or other oppressive social stances. It is the stance of the moderation staff that the terms idiot, stupid and moron will not be penalised as ableist language for the sake of community well-being. Wow, just all this hypocrisy, people. 11. Do not promote harmful political ideologies. Objective discussion of certain viewpoints will be allowed as long as they remain objective. Motion will not be tolerated. These ideologies include fascism, alt-right, eugenics, because believe me, anybody holding these beliefs are automatically scum, and we cannot talk about this because we might change these young people's minds. Even though I do believe these people won't even believe in this shit anyway, but who cares? 12. Keep channel content as intended for the channel. Guidelines are as followed. I'm not going to get into that. It's a load of bullshit. This is the rules. they're pretty shit. It's not as free speech friendly as he likes to make himself out to be, and to make people like me out to be free speech warriors and not really into it at all, yeah. When he's actively stopping people from talking about things. And Rule 5 is the big one. This is the rule that has been referred to throughout this video and in all the things that you've seen so far. You're not allowed to talk to Hbomberguy, and he reiterates this further in this Imgur image that Transman shared on his apology. And it says this: new rule, so it's a new one. If you want to criticise my actions, or have a question about how I'm running things, or think I'm a shitty person now, please message me about it. I am banning people who openly decide to call me out directly in the general chat. Like, that's a healthy and productive addition to conversations. Oh, my Führer! I will not criticise you ever! Oh, I could never attack my Führer. Do not attack my Führer. That is verboten. Yeah, just don't attack him, because it's not productive, even though he openly wants that to happen in his apology, but don't do it because it makes him look bad. He's already made himself look guilty by tacitly admitting the things that he did, because he has to, because if he didn't, he would essentially be fucked anyway. It's a Devin Ferrassi defence. But also because he wants to make sure that he's not too guilty, that too many people start thinking for themselves and criticising him. Yeah, you're such a dictator, Hbomberguy, but it's okay. It's people like me that's the issue here. We have those issues. And then he corroborates this further by talking to someone called Cranny, and he says, I keep saying, but instead, there's just more of this. But what am I doing? What did I do? You're doing it. Message me or others about this. Get it off the front face of the Discord. Yeah, we can't have this sent here. The sheep and the plebs, they're getting too unruly. I've got to crack down on this bullshit. And essentially, that's what it is. Hbomberguy has essentially decided that, okay, enough is enough. I've apologised. Now to crack down, crack the whip on all these people who are criticising me, because we can't be having that. He's already apologised, right? I mean, he's a good, straight, white ally, isn't he? We can't be seen to be discussing whether or not that's true. It is true. He's apologised, and that's all it is to it. Now, people, I'm going to leave the rest of it to you. I've given my opinion. I think he's wrong to doing that. I think it's clear a case of trying to essentially curb all the damage that's already been done by a scorched earth policy. And the more he tries to keep this down, the more the Barbra Streisand effect will take hold, because as we all know, the more he tries to snuff it all out, the more shit will just appear out of nowhere. And I think my video will be a part of all that Barbra Streisand effect shit. So until next time, people, this has been Charming Man 93. Like and share the video, subscribe to my channel, and this drama isn't over yet. So until more shit comes out, stay tuned. See you later.